Welcome to our channel. Today, we're diving into the whirlwind of global events that shape our world. You might be thinking, the world's a chaotic mess, why more news? It's a valid question. With so much happening, it can feel overwhelming. Fair point. But staying informed is important, like flossing. Just as neglecting dental hygiene can lead to cavities, ignoring the news can lead to bigger societal issues. Ignoring it leads to bigger problems. When we stay informed, we can make better decisions and hold those in power accountable. Today we're diving into the top 10 political headlines making waves around the world. These stories are not just headlines, they impact our daily lives. From climate change legislation to international spats, we've got it all. These issues are complex and multifaceted, affecting millions of people. Buckle up, because we're about to embark on a whirlwind tour of global current events. Stay with us as we break down the stories that matter most. Well folks, color me shocked. In a rare turn of events, the US Congress has actually managed to pass a significant piece of legislation, and not just any legislation, but one that addresses climate change head-on. The US Congress has actually done something, passing a landmark climate change bill. This bill, which has been in the works for years, finally made it through the labyrinth of political negotiations and compromises. It's not perfect, with more compromises than a Hollywood marriage. The bill had to be watered down to get enough votes, but it still represents a monumental step forward. But it marks a significant shift in US policy, with billions towards renewable energy and green tech. This means more funding for wind turbines, solar panels, and other green technologies that could help reduce our carbon footprint. Is it enough to save the planet? Probably not, but it's a start. Environmentalists are cautiously optimistic, seeing this as a foundation upon which more robust measures can be built. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, or in this case, a single heavily debated step. This legislation is a small but crucial part of a much larger effort to combat climate change and protect our planet for future generations. Over in Eastern Europe, the EU is playing a high-stakes game of diplomacy and economic pressure. How many sanctions can we impose on Belarus? The European Union has been meticulously planning and coordinating these sanctions for months. Cracking down on human rights and rigging elections tends to ruffle feathers. The Belarusian government's actions have sparked outrage not just within the EU but globally. The EU is hitting Belarus where it hurts, their wallets, with asset freezes and travel bans. These measures are designed to target key individuals and entities within the Belarusian regime. Whether these sanctions will change anything is debatable, but at least the EU is trying. The hope is that economic pressure will lead to political change. It's more than we can say for some countries too busy with trade wars and building walls. The EU's approach, while not perfect, shows a commitment to upholding democratic values and human rights. India and China, two nuclear-armed giants in a tense standoff along their disputed border. Recently they've decided to try talking to each other. Senior officials from both sides sat down for diplomatic discussions. These talks are just the first step in a long and bumpy road. Any attempt to de-escalate tensions is a good thing. Unless you're a defense contractor, in which case please disregard this message. Down in Brazil, the rainforest is burning, and it's not just because of the climate. Brazil's president has been green-lighting deforestation at an alarming rate. Environmental groups are protesting and raising awareness. The Amazon rainforest is a vital carbon sink, absorbing more carbon dioxide than it releases. When it burns, it releases all that stored carbon back into the atmosphere, which is not good for anyone. Across the pond, in the land of tea and crumpets, there's a housing crisis brewing. The UK Prime Minister has announced a new plan to tackle this issue. The gist is this: build more houses. Cutting through red tape and streamlining planning permission is practically revolutionary. The details are likely to be as convoluted as a Shakespearean plot, but at least they're trying. Over in Japan, things are getting tense. Japan's parliament has decided to significantly increase the defense budget. This is mainly in response to growing security concerns in the region. It's a significant shift for a country that has long prided itself on pacifism. What does this mean for Japan and the region? Well, it's complicated. Down in South Africa, the president has called for bold economic reforms. This time, it's about tackling unemployment, addressing poverty, and creating a more equitable society. Reforming an economy is messy and unpredictable, But at least they're trying, and in a world where cynicism often reigns supreme, that's gotta count for something. Whether these reforms will actually happen is another matter entirely. Oh Canada, land of maple syrup hockey and systemic injustices against Indigenous communities. For years, the Canadian government has been making promises to Indigenous communities, and for years those promises have been broken. Activists are protesting and demanding that the government finally live up to its commitments. True reconciliation requires more than just words, it requires action. Down under, a familiar debate is raging immigration. A controversial new bill making its way through the Senate has everyone fired up. The government argues it's about protecting borders and ensuring safety. Critics say it's a thinly veiled attempt to appeal to anti-immigrant sentiment. It's a debate that's likely to continue for some time with no easy answers in sight. And finally, we end our tour of global politics in Russia. This time, it's a prominent opposition leader feeling the wrath of the Kremlin. His crime? Criticizing Vladimir Putin, the punishment, an additional prison term. This latest crackdown on dissent has drawn international condemnation. Just another day in the wacky, wild world of global politics. And there you have it, the top 10 political headlines shaping our world. We've journeyed from Congress to the Amazon, and frankly, we need a stiff drink. But hey, at least you're now armed with enough current events knowledge for any awkward dinner party conversation. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to stay updated. See you next time.